Hi, hope you've been good. I want to share a few tips and insights with you for modeling jobs and working in the fashion industry, including tips for runway walk, different jobs, castings, portfolio, how to apply to things, also whatever else comes to my mind. If you're new here, I'm Lucia. I'm a Paris-based casting director, artist, and designer. I mainly work as a casting director and I've been working with luxury brands mainly in Paris and Europe. And I have a lot to share if you want to be a model or if you want to work in the fashion industry. I'm going to share some ideas in no particular order, but I believe that they are really important to know. And just a little disclaimer here, I make these videos for educational purposes and sharing my experiences and all the things that I know personally. And also as a professional working in this industry, you might have very different experiences. And if that's the case, I would love to hear all about it. Please share it in the comments. I'm really curious to hear about your experiences as a model or as an industry professional. And I strongly believe that the more we share with each other, we can make the fashion industry better and safer for everyone working in it. All right, let's get into it. I'm going to talk a lot about working on fashion shows, and also I'm just trying to think of everything that could be useful for castings, mainly for fashion shows. So one of the things that models always ask before they start the casting is if they need to change to heels or they start changing to heels right away. I'm talking about mainly female models, and it's great to carry heels with you to all the castings, but not every casting director wants to see you walk in heels. That usually happens when the show that you're doing casting for are only having flat shoes and they want to see you only in that. A lot of times new models wouldn't be very confident walking in heels, and it just lowers their chances if they look uncomfortable. If your walk is not great in heels yet, or you have some super uncomfortable heels and it's not necessary to walk in heels, it's better to walk in flat shoes. I think it's the best to ask the casting assistant, who is usually the person who's welcoming you and taking your comb card. Or when you walk into a casting, if you see all the other models having heels, you can also change to heels, or you can also ask them if they know that you need to change to heels or not. And if you need to change to heels but you don't have heels with you, I think it's fine to ask the casting team if they have any heels that you can put on, or if not, then maybe ask one of the models who have the same shoe size as you and you can change into their shoes, do the walk quickly and then give it back. I know it's a bit gross to wear someone else's shoes, but unfortunately that's a big part of modeling, that whenever you have a photo shoot or castings or fittings, they would give you shoes that a bajillion people wore before. So I know it's not ideal, so try to carry your heels with you. And also very important to take the heels that you've been practicing your walk, because if you try on a completely new shoe, your walk might not be as great or as convincing in the casting. Wear something that makes you feel the most confident. And also I've been seeing girls who wear high heels the whole day and they go to castings in high heels and they run around like that. I don't think it's necessary. Everyone can wait 1 minute for you to try on your heels. Just get a big bag and put everything that you need in there, because your feet is gonna be tortured more when you do shows and you need to stand in it for hours. Please just, take care of yourself. It's very important not to do something that's unnecessary. Also, if you are in Europe, I don't know if they have it in the US, but we have this brand called Compeed, and they have these band-aids and all these silicone things that you can put into your shoes and on the sole of your shoes, in the heels, that helps you with the pain, and it makes the shoes less slippery inside, and they are just life-saving little things. Everyone I know who's doing a bunch of shows, they always wear those and carry those. I always try to have some with me if someone needs it, but they are a bit pricey, I'm not gonna lie, but they can save your life. If your feet is hurting, I think it's great you go to the pharmacy. They probably have it. In Paris at least, you can buy it everywhere in most pharmacies. So let's talk about model walks. Before show castings, try to practice your walk in many different circumstances, in different like surfaces, in different types of shoes, like you wear heels, flats, chunky like boots, whatever you have at home. You can even experiment with like wearing bigger size shoes or smaller size shoes, because a lot of times they're not gonna have your exact size. So I think it's good to like get a bit used to it before you do any shows or castings. Try to practice your walks on stairs also, like going up and down when you're not looking down but you're looking up like straight. You imagine there's a camera, but please be careful. Please be very careful. Also try to practice like on tiles when you're wearing like heels. You can always scratch the bottom of your heels, or you can buy like these like things that you can stick on the bottom of the heels, and it creates some texture so it grasps into different types of surfaces much better, so it makes it less slippery. And you can buy small ones for the heels also. When you're confident with one type of walk, try to look up other brands, like what kind of walk they require from their models. So you can watch like these shows, like you can watch Louis Vuitton and Chanel and some like couture shows, and you will see the difference between different shows, what the walk vibe is, like how fast it is, how slow it is, how much you're like, you know, sometimes it's like very straight, no hips, no like movement. It's like called more like a boyish walk. Sometimes it's like flowy and light, and then sometimes it's very like 80s sharp, you're crossing your legs, hips, whatever. So it's really great to like learn about the different types of walks. So when you have a casting, you can also ask the casting assistant or the casting director like what walk they want to see if you're unsure. For example, like I've seen so many people who would go to like a casting and they do like a very sharp, like moving a lot with the hips, with the shoulders, but then like the show that we're casting for is like really not that vibe, or it's like, you know, it just doesn't feel like what we need to see. And I always tell what kind of walk I want to see if it's not that, if they're not doing that type of walk. But I know a lot of casting directors would not ask you to do a second walk with this and that like alterations. They would just like tell you like, okay, bye, because it wasn't the walk that they wanted to see. So it's a bit tricky, but yeah, it's great to prepare for different like styles. And some models have very distinct walks. For example, like Steinberg and Leon Dam and Jasmine Villadin. I don't know if I pronounced her name correct, but it's also great to like analyze their walks for like different shows, because they have their distinct walk, but they still like alter their walk a little bit for different shows. So I think it's great to like look up some models who like, okay, I love her walk. You check what's her name, you watch her in like different shows, and then try to like mimic that walk. That could be very interesting to do, for example, as like a practice. And no matter what the walk is like, always have energy and always look confident or act confident as much as you can. The worst thing is when there's like a great model who looks amazing and they just have absolutely no energy, and you can see that they're tired, and it like really ruins your chances, which is like, I know, horrible, because like everyone can have a very bad day or a low energy day, or if you're on your period you're like dying, or if you barely slept because you've been working the night before and then you have an early casting. Like I know a lot of times like fashion weeks are not the most restful times, but just for that like couple minutes when you have a casting, just before you go into the casting, I don't know, try to tell yourself like, okay, I have this like couple seconds to show, and like hopefully it will go better. But and also if you slip a little bit or you fall or you know mess up, just start over. Like I know it's stressful, but even the best models like slip and fell sometimes, like Naomi Campbell in the Vivienne Westwood show, like that's like iconic. So just keep that in mind, that it happens to the best. Let's talk about what to wear to castings. The best is to wear something tight that shows off your shape, usually something black or a dark color, and a lot of times just like some tight jeans with like a black tank top, or if you're wearing layers, maybe have like a black or white or some like neutral colored tank top under your layers, so you can wear that for the casting. But in my personal opinion, I think it's great to also show your personality a little bit. try to find a balance between showing your personal style while you're still, you know, considering that you're going to a casting and you need to be dressed for that. For example, you can wear some like cool coats or accessories, but then it's something that is easy to take off, for example. But of course, there's like nothing wrong with, you know, wearing like a super simple casting outfit that your agent picks out. I know for a lot of new faces, their agent helps to like pick out what casting outfits to wear, you know, some like tights with a skirt and like a t-shirt, that's perfect too. So if you're unsure, talk to your agent or ask other models what is the best to wear for castings. Yeah, but I just love seeing people's like personal styles, and especially if someone looks really cool, I remember those people much better. Or if someone has like some like interesting jeans, I always ask like, oh, where you got it from. I just kind of feel like it shows that they have an interest in fashion and they're not just modeling because someone told them they are pretty and they could model, but because they actually like the fashion industry. So that's just like my little personal opinion. There's nothing wrong with like you just modeling because you want to earn money and then on the side you go to like medical school or something because that's your actual interest. I know a lot of people who do that. So okay, fashion survival kit, what to bring to castings so you don't feel like shit all day. You're basically running around all day from castings to callbacks to fittings, and it's extremely hard to plan your day because you might get something quick where you need to be back in like half an hour. I think these things are essential to carry with you when you're doing fashion week castings, or if you just have like a lot of castings and jobs and everything like on top of each other. So besides your books, your comp cards and your heels, some things to always carry is your phone charger. If you're in a different country, bring adapter, bring a portable battery, hair ties, deodorant, tampons and pad, a book to read or something that you can do while you're waiting, because I feel like this job for you as a model and for me as a casting assistant or casting director, it's literally we're either rushing with everything or we are waiting for something to happen or we are waiting for the client. So there is going to be a lot of waiting. Like even at the best castings, you're probably gonna have to wait at least 10 minutes, but sometimes half an hour, sometimes an hour. So bring a book, or like I've literally seen people, you know, bringing their laptop or iPad where they're like drawing or studying. You know, you can play on something. I've seen people knitting in castings. Always carry some nutritious snacks that is like good to eat if you didn't have any time to eat during that day. Like I'm talking about fruits, nuts, protein bars, you know, vitamin gummy bears, or a bag of baby carrots or something that you can eat, because I forget to eat during castings a lot because we are so busy. But for you it's even worse because you're like walking a lot and you're going from places to places. Like I usually just sit, and of course I always try to have something on side. And also it's very important to carry some water or some water drops, or like any hydrating things like vitamin powders are great to like put into your water, or like electrolytes are also great. Carry with you some vitamins and sugar pills. Sugar pills are great when you're about to faint, and like any other medications like painkiller or any medications for like cramps or nausea, those are great to have with you as well. I never thought about carrying any of these, but the team that I started to work with, they always had some, and I just found it so nice that they think about all these issues that can come up during castings, because you know when you're working with a lot of people, anything can happen, and you know it's great that we are prepared for any issues that can come up. And of course also carry something that can protect your little feeties because you're running around all day or like you're standing in lines for a long time. So bring some band-aids and some like silicone pads or like these competes, and then there are these like heel protectors and that you can like buy on Amazon. I think it's like not that expensive. So I want to talk about hair and makeup tests. You might got some like options for hair and makeup tests, but you have no idea like what does that mean? Are you in the show or is it just a separate job? Does it make your chances better to get into the show? I just want to explain to you how usually brands choose their hair and makeup test models for their show. It's a modeling job to test out literally how the show hair and makeup will look look. If any other fashion industry professional is watching this video, I think it's great to request models who have different skin tones and different hair textures. And it's also great to have one long hair model and one shorter hair model. And they might even try on a look from the collection, but that doesn't count as fitting. Thing is just like when your hair and makeup is ready. A lot of times the creative director and the stylist wants to see how the hair and makeup would work with some of the outfits. So don't be surprised if that happens. That's like normal. And it can be like a one-time job, maybe a full day, or sometimes they would do multiple days, or sometimes it's just like 2, 3, 4 hours, depending on like how complicated the look is. And here's the important part. If you do hair and makeup tasks, that does not mean that you are getting the show. I know it confuses a lot of new models because nobody explains this to them, but a lot of times they think that they got the show because they did the hair and makeup on them, but unfortunately that's not the case. Many times they do get the show, but it's not a given that that will happen. But I think it's great to book hair and makeup tests or shows, because a lot of times if they really like you in that glam, or if they really loved you in the outfit that they tried on, they might like just say like, okay, we actually want this model in the show. Most of the times when brands are booking hair and makeup models, they do choose someone that they actually really like and feel strong about when they do the casting, and they try to actually confirm those models. But sometimes it doesn't happen, and I really want to tell you this because I know it can be very disappointing when you see yourself in that full glam and you try on some things, but then in the end you don't get the show. And many times we would book models for hair and makeup tests who are like relatively new or completely new. Maybe it's their first season or second or third season. Maybe they already worked with the brand and the brand is requesting them specifically because they know how they look, they know how everything works on them. If you get an option for hair and makeup and you get confirmed, but unfortunately you cannot do some castings because you're not going to be available for that like 3-4 hours when you're working, at least you have like a job that's like for sure. Let's talk about what's happening if no agencies are signing you. It's a common question that I get from a lot of people who want to become models, but they've been trying to apply to a bunch of different agencies and they have no replies, or they only get rejections. So first of all, you might be like applying to the wrong type of agencies. It's great to look up agencies in your region, in your area, in your country, because if you're like applying to agencies in like a completely different country and you're super far, they probably not gonna like reply back to you. So I think it's the best to apply locally and try with like some smaller agencies. Also, there are so many agencies now. There is a lot of mother agencies where they would sign you and then they would find you probably bigger agencies in different cities, or like the main like fashion cities in like Paris, London, New York and Milan. So when you're applying, it's also great to do some research, check out what type of models they already have in their agency, what divisions they have. I've seen many times like there's agencies when they only have women's board and male models would apply to those. So obviously don't apply to agencies where they don't have a board where you could fit in. So it takes a little bit of time to do your research, but I think it's great to only apply to the ones that actually make sense. And there's a lot of like agencies that are more commercial agencies, or agencies that do more like beauty focused jobs, or they're more like a talent agency where it's not just about your look but also the different skills and talents that you have. You can check out those too. They also have a lot of modeling jobs like any other agencies. And I know it sounds a little bit harsh, but if you want to be a model, you also need to have some like self-critique and see yourself where you could fit in the fashion industry, and basically have a reality check of what possible jobs you could do as a model. Like the biggest issue usually is when there is someone who's much shorter shorter than the required height. They want to do fashion shows, and while it does happen, like I know many models who are much shorter than the required height and they get fashion shows. That's more the exception, and a lot of times it's nepo babies, but that's a whole other topic. It's really hard to explain, but there are some people who have this like model look, and while someone can be like really pretty and very handsome, maybe they photograph great, but they still don't have this like look that the fashion and the luxury industry requires right now or looks for. Or like, for example, maybe you are really beautiful in real life, but then you don't photograph very well. That can be another issue. Of course, a lot of these things are skills that you can improve and you can practice and get more photogenic with time, or, you know, work on all these things. But there are just some features that the industry requires. There is a lot of agencies where, you know, it's not like classic models, but more like characters, I would say. But they always have something that's particular about them, and they always photograph great. They have like this energy and this vibe that just makes them stand out. And after all these, if you're still not getting signed with any agencies, I suggest you to be basically a freelance model and build your portfolio on your own. Reach out to industry professionals like photographers, stylists, new designers, new brands, and see if you can collaborate them, see if they need any model. Work on your skills, take your own photos. I know it's a lot of work, that's for sure. Like, I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but you can take your own digitals, you can take your own photos. I know so many models who do this, and you know, slowly they built up their own like portfolio, and it looks professional and looks great. And also work on your social media presence. That's very important. That's where you can find a lot of great people to collaborate with, for example. And you can treat your Instagram or your TikTok as your online portfolio. You don't need to make like a website or pay for anything. And just try to find like local creative people, stores, brands that you can collaborate with, or maybe they are looking for someone but the agencies are way too expensive for them, and maybe you as a new model could be great for this job. So like, try to think as an agent kind of, and do your own research basically. And of course, in the beginning it's a lot of like rework while you're gaining experience, but you know, we kind of all had to do this kind of like an internship. Like, I worked for free so many times, and sometimes I still do if I want to like get an experience in something. So just take that time. Like, I know it's hard to manage with the finances and trying to keep busy and work as a model when you're not getting that many like paid jobs, but that's unfortunately the reality of this job. So yeah. And yeah, I know so many people who work like this and they see great success. They earn good money with it. They do it as a full-time freelance model. I know in like Korea and like Seoul, it's like a thing that like a lot of models that are not signed with agencies and they just work as a freelance model. No. Let's talk about another hard part of modeling, which is handling rejection. It is crucial in this industry because unfortunately it's gonna happen a lot of times. And understanding the fact that you won't get every job and that you might not have an amazing career as a model, and it might take years until your modeling career takes off. And you will probably have many casting directors and photographers and other industry professionals who will only glance at you for 1 second and be super mean or shout like next without saying anything. So all those things happen very often. And I'm not saying to become completely like emotionless about all these things. I think it's very painful and awful, and it's completely normal to feel sad about all these things because, you know, it feels horrible. But just know that these things, they're literally nothing personal, and it's not taking away anything from your worth. your values. And I think it's just something that you need to understand if you want to be in this industry, especially modeling. It's like a very vulnerable position and it can get like really, really tough sometimes. And it's great to share your experiences and your feelings with other people, and they might have some advice like how to handle all these rejections. What I'm trying to tell everyone after like casting, especially when I see that they're visibly upset that they didn't get a job, that it literally has nothing to do with them personally. There's so many factors that is in this whole like job where so many people are deciding if you get that job or not. Like for example, you know, maybe the casting director loves you, but then the stylist says something that like, oh, she's not gonna fit great in something, or maybe like the casting director wasn't really strong about you, but then like after the casting, you, for example, you didn't even meet creative team, but then maybe they bring you up and request you anyways. So, you know, there are a lot of things, or like some sorry, my cat is in the background. Sometimes, you know, there's just way too many models in a show. Like some seasons just have so many great models, and unfortunately the places get filled up. Like I had so many shows where there was somebody who was arriving very late and I would have loved to have her in my show, but then we basically finalized the casting. It's always great to go to your castings anyways, because whenever we do castings for a show or something, that casting director is always cast for other things in the meantime that you don't even know about. So it's great to go anyways.